It's Mon Mothma's HoloNet, and we're just posting on it. Welcome back to Mothmanet News on our 50-day countdown to Andor Season 2. Today's guest, can you please introduce yourself and our topic for today?
Hi, my name is Beth. I go by they, them, and our topic for today is the general fashion in Andor.
I think it's a pretty broad topic, but I feel like we could say a lot about it, you know.
Exactly.
Something that really stood out to me is the concept of clothes being lived in, and that goes with sets as well and things. And I think personally, I don't know if you would agree with this, Ferrex feels the most lived in.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. Um, they just have such a it's kind of like your hometown where like everybody wears like one color in a way. Like everybody in on Ferrex wears these bright neons, these bright oranges.
Mhm.
So when you bring in Cassian, and the first time we see Cassian, and he's in these dark, dull colors, a little
Mhm.
bit of orange, but not as strong as like the brighter oranges. It you clearly tell that he is not from there, and that like
Mhm.
he doesn't even feel a part of that community as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like, on a broader scale, like with Narkina 5, for example, the way that it's just the clothing and the way that they're dressing the prisoners makes it feel even more sterile because they
Exactly.
only have the orange like on their
Hmm.
prison outfits, and that's like the only color that they get to experience, really, which is
Right.
very interesting when you look at it from the lens of Ferrex, where there's like a lot of like oranges, reds, yellows, things like that. And then you go here and it's just so sterile. And the only color that you'll really see on a day to day basis is that orange in your clothing.
Right? And I feel
Mhm.
like it kind of plays into that shift that we see from the Republic to the Empire. The
Mhm.
Republic, we had the clones, and even though the clones all looked alike, they had their own personalities. They
Mhm.
decorated their helmets how they wanted. Fives, Rex, Cody, we all saw that. So I think it's that it shows the shift in like, this is the Empire now. You are a product of who we make you. Like you are
Yeah.
not your own person. So,
Yeah, which is also like how the clones were originally like conditioned to be. Um,
exactly.
and then the Jedi were like, "Hey, you guys are your own individuals.
Mhm.
Embrace that. Like, find a way, because it's like all of your faces are the same. Find something that
Exactly.
makes you unique, right? Tattoos, hair color, things like that." And I think that's one of the reasons why it was so difficult for them to be able to fully treat them like cogs in the machine. Because
Mhm.
even in like after Order 66, it felt wrong that they were being treated as cogs, but they
Mhm.
still had those unique identifying features. Um, and like, the uniformity that goes into the uniformity and conformity that fascism demands is also
Exactly.
really like on display. Because they don't want you to have like your own personality, your own thoughts. They don't even want you thinking, right? So that just makes it even more horrendous. Like, if a work uniform in general can feel demeaning, imagine living like that all the time. Like, just
Exactly. Yeah.
having to sleep and eat and everything in your work uniform. And again, I'm fairly lucky because mine's just like you have to wear black.
Right.
Okay. But having worked in like other places where I didn't like the place I was working, being in that uniform and having to conform to it and be like, essentially, I am one of the faces of this company and I hate that. It definitely sucked because I was like, you just see me as a cog in the machine, you know?
Right. And I think like talking about that cog in the machine, yeah, they were in that all the time. Like they go to sleep, they're in the orange and white, so at least, other citizens across the galaxy, yeah, they may have a work uniform, but they're going home, they may change.
Hmm.
And so it really solidifies that kind of, we own you, we are telling you what to do. You
Hmm.
are nothing to us, essentially, and the way that the Empire sees it. So,
Yeah. And that's also the way that they not only feel about the prisoners, but also their own people as well, especially the ones who are in helmets, because you're also taking away the identity of their face. You're
mhm,
requiring that uniformity and conformity with every aspect of their appearance. And it's just like, yeah, in a lot of cases, you do sign up for the military, although there was a lot of discussion about conscription and people being forced into it. And, you know, when that's the only option that you have, is it really
exactly.
a choice? You
Right.
know?
Like, I need money, like, I need credits, I need to be able
Mhm.
to provide for my family. Like,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, for some of those people, it's like, I have to do this in order to create a better for my family. So,
Yeah, or even just like survive. Like in the case
literally,
of Han in Solo, right? He literally enlists because he's like, I have to get off of Corellia, right?
literally,
Um, and you
or
see it like a
even,
lot with like other characters in books. I think Ray
yeah,
Sloan was another one who was basically
yeah,
like she ran away from home and she was like, this is the only way that I can have a life, right?
exactly.
Yeah. And then I think with that, because there's really like essentially, I'm going to say like three different types of fashion that we see. So you've got like the upper,
Mhm.
like Coruscanti, oftentimes Chandrillan kind of aesthetic, and
Yeah,
then the prison aesthetic, and then the Ferrex aesthetic, right?
yeah,
And yeah, in some ways, I would say that the aesthetics that we see in the fashion on Coruscant are slightly more because we're in the upper levels in this show
mhm,
primarily. We're not really seeing the lower levels where we would see more diversity in people and also the way that they
right,
dress. But like there is that hint of, sterility, but there's also real color and there's a
yeah,
richness to it and there's texture to it. Whereas the clothing, and that the same thing with like Ferrex as well. Like you've got the colors, you've got the texture, you've got like a certain appeal to what they're wearing,
right.
right? But Narkina 5, nope,
It's,
not at
yeah,
all.
not at all. No identity. Yeah. And even as we see with Cyril's mom, like,
Hmm.
she's clearly on the, like, a little bit like lower upper levels of
Hmm.
Coruscant, like still up there, but even there you can see, like, yes, she's dressing a little more fancy, but her apartment is small, they're eating cereal. Just that shift from Cyril's mom to what we see Mon in
Hmm.
is like such a, in my personal opinion, such a change. Like,
Yeah.
because Cyril's mom, she has some sort of identity with her clothing. She uses the bright color, and
Hmm.
then we see Mon in the typical white, almost like pure. Like,
Yeah.
she has to put on this front
Hmm.
to make sure she can keep herself safe and her family safe and the citizens of Coruscant safe.
Yeah, I think like with Edie Karn specifically, she puts a lot of thought and effort into how she presents to the world. And that is something that we hear her say to Cyril. Like, everything
Hmm.
says something. Like, is this how you've been presenting yourself to the world? Right? Appearances matter very much to her. And that is a
Hmm.
key aspect, I think, of who she is. And one of the things is, I think a lot of the disposable income that she has, she puts towards these more elegant and expensive pieces. I feel like she has a small wardrobe, but
Right.
it very much is like, oh, wow, like you've invested a lot of money into this rather than, oh, I have like a couple of credits. I can buy this cheap blouse and it's going to
Right.
fall apart. And there's a certain practicality in that as well because
Hmm.
she knows she doesn't have a lot. And so what she has, she needs to make sure is of good quality and will last her a long time. And it also kind of establishes her as a character who who isn't in a position where she needs to like work specifically in jobs where she would be getting her hands dirty.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that quality that she has, we see passed down to Cyril
Mm-hmm.
with the with him fixing his uniform, you know?
Yeah.
And like making small little touches, even though he's not supposed to, you know, like he's not supposed to have an identity.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of seemed like a big deal when the boss noticed it. So I think we see that passed down to him as well.
Yeah, I think with Cyril, because we've talked a lot about how like him tailoring his clothes is like an act of rebellion. And also, you know, he does have that pride in his appearance, I think, but it's not quite as much as his mother's. But he is someone who can take pride in a uniform, and he's going to make sure that it looks good on him. And a lot of it does have to do with his like very deeply seated insecurities, but that also makes him super relatable. You know, when you're like, I could never wear those jeans. The way that they're cut, the way that they're shaped, could never do that. I'm going to stick with something that is more to the way that I feel comfortable and the way that I want to present myself. Right.
Exactly.
So, you know, for him, it's more care of a uniform, because in that uniform, he still has a face. Unlike a stormtrooper. And stormtrooper standards are incredibly high as well. Like, you know, keeping all of that like pristine and clean, because you don't want to stand out necessarily. Right. And I think a big thing with that, just to randomly talk about The Force Awakens, is when Finn has the blood on his helmet. We can look at that scene and we can be like, oh yeah, the one with the blood on his helmet, that's Finn. It makes you a little bit too identifiable. But also, then why go with white for your generic color?
Right.
It gets dirty so easily. Yeah. Another thing that I really liked with the fashion, and I'm not going to go too much into it because, again, I could talk about her fashion for like 5-6 hours. The way that they were able to incorporate Bond's like classic looks, but also give her that texture, that boldness, treat it more like the armor for her persona, right? And she knows what colors are, something that she's gonna forget in season 2. But I think watching her go through that and go from, you know, oh, I have to literally be perfect, I have to do all of these things with my clothes in order to be paid attention to be somewhat listened to going into a space where she's like, it doesn't matter what I wear, the people that are around me are going to listen regardless. I don't need to fight to be heard. I don't need to think, oh, well, what if the tabloids are like, well, I don't like the way she was dressed last night, and then not paying attention to the things that she says. But also not paying attention to the things that she says is a very good shield for her. So it's a very delicate balance she's walking, you know?
Right. And I think a big theme that I noticed in my rewatch of season 1 of Andor was that with these main characters that we see, Luthen, Mon, Cassian, you know, we kind of see this sense of them being, I'm so sorry, the sense of them being like an outcast in a way. You know, Cassian, his outfit on Ferrix doesn't match everybody else's. Even Mon in her own home, you know, Perrin and her daughter are wearing these bright blues, and Mon is still kind of sticking to the white, the creams, like those colors. And then Luthen, we literally see him put on the costume between dropping Cassian off at Aldhani and getting to Coruscant, you know?
Yeah.
So I think the major theme that I noticed was that these people are people to look out at in a way.
Yeah.
So
I will never forget that video that somebody made where it's Luthen getting ready and he's getting all this stuff on, and it was to Best of Both Worlds by Hannah Montana. And I'm like, this is like not a silly, funny scene, but every time it starts, I'm like, you get the limo out front. Ooh, and I had to stop myself from continuing. That's just a side tangent.
Every time I see it, I think of the clip of Elijah Wood and who is it? I forget.
Have you worn wigs?
Have you worn wigs? Will you ever wear wigs?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. I also think another character that's interesting is Vel, when we look at Vel's fashion, because she looks very at home in the clothes that she's wearing on Aldhani when she's pretending to be a shepherd. And then you see her on Coruscant, and she looks very at home in those clothes. And it adds another layer of complexity to her character, because it is important that she fits in both of these places. But, it's a situation where it's just like, you can kind of tell oftentimes when someone is wealthy and has a lot and they're dressing like down, similar to the way that tech bros will just be like, oh yeah, I'm just the everyman wearing like expensive ass jeans and a $500 black t-shirt,
Right.
Or the way that Steve Jobs' aesthetic was like that black turtleneck, right? And it worked for him, but you could tell you were just like, I mean, it works for you, but we can tell that this is not necessarily how the rest of the world sees you. Whereas, like, Vel needs to fit in as a fake shepherd, and then needs to fit in with the upper echelons of Coruscanti society and Shandrillan society. She doesn't have a choice. And I was like, this is insane, because you look good in literally everything.
Well, and I think to add to that sense of like she looks at home at both, I noticed that when we were on Aldhani, like her and Cinta, their clothes were very similar. And and they were the only two in the group that had like similar clothes. And I think that also shows like her relationships with these different people. And like we even see like Nemec, he tries to like look like Vel and Cinta. He kind of tries to have that shepherd look, but he just doesn't go all the way. And so I think it's also an important symbolism of her relationships with the people around her. Like, so.
I agree. And like, I would bring up characters like Cinta, who we also see off of Aldhani. But at the same time, like, even when she's on Ferrix, she's in an area where, dressing to the nines and having opulence would stand out more than fit in. And she's a spy. She needs to blend in. And like, her and Vel are excellent at that. Doing that thing. But also, quick shout out to Nemec's hat, because it's so cute.
It is. It is really cute.
Yeah, I just always thinking, I'm just like, little Nemec. I love him. I miss him.
Yeah.
And then, with characters like Corv and Dedra, when they're on Ferrix and they're in like the street clothes and they're out and about, they still stick out like sore thumbs. Like they feel like they're not meant to be there.
Exactly.
It would be like a person going from a Renaissance fair in a time machine back to, an actual fair in the Renaissance.
Right. Like every day at the Renaissance.
Similar to like that. Because it's like, obviously these clothes were purchased with Imperial money, and you probably would have gone for the, good quality, things like that, a little bit more expensive. And they can tell, because those, like, Cinta's clothes look lived in as a spy. Corv and Dedra's clothes feel too new. And Ferrix is like a place where they where the industry is predominantly mining. It's going to be dirty, and they feel like two people
Exactly.
who are scared to get their clothes dirty.
Yes.
In a way that if you dropped Mon Mothma on Ferrex, she'd be like, "It's beautiful. I don't want to get dirty."
Right.
You know, which I think is also a stark contrast, because that's how I think she would feel like in season 1, and that as we move into season 2 and we get into her more classic outfit, she's on Yavin 4. She is in a rainforest. She's going to get dirty.
Yeah.
And that's something that she's going to kind of need to come to accept, I think, which is going to be very interesting. She's going to encounter mud and start crying.
Right.
There's going to be like a puddle on the tarmac or something, and she's going to be like, nobody can carry me over it. I've got it. I can do this. 10 minutes later, she's still standing there like, it's okay. It's okay. The outfit you're wearing is significantly less expensive than what you were wearing 3 weeks ago.
Literally.
You're okay. Steps in the puddle. Nope.
Nope, I
Which
can't
is
do it.
how I feel in my Mon cosplays, because I'm like, I will not wear you outside. I will not wear you in like on transit. You are changed into at the convention center. You took so much time and effort. And I had somebody ask me, like, are you planning on doing that when you make your other Mon Mothma cosplays? And I was like, yeah. This is I carry it in a dress bag to the convention, and I shoot daggers at anyone who looks at me strangely. Like, do you want to replace this if it gets damaged? No.
Right. No.
And I mean, admittedly, compared to Mon Mothma, I'm a broke bitch. But, you know, I feel like Edie Karn would be the same way, in that a speck of mud on her clothing, she would lose her mind.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that the big idea is how lived in the things feel, because you also get that with the set and production design as well.
Yeah.
And it's not really commented on in the show, except in like one instance when Davos Skulden's like, yeah, I was here 30 years ago. Seems like nothing's really changed. And she's like, you know, our options are limited. I can't have like High Republic posters all over the walls. And Perrin doesn't have a dartboard over there, so he and I are both making sacrifices.
Right.
You know, but I could honestly picture the two of them being like, okay, but our bedrooms, we can hopefully have something to do in there that we can make it so that it looks like the actual people live here, and that we're not just staying here for a short period of time.
Right.
Because she needs that comfort, I really think.
Yeah.
And, you know, but hugest of huge shout outs to Michael Wilkinson at the end of the day, I think. Because, wow. And I am fully on Tony Gilroy's side when he says, you know, I don't care about the awards and who gets recognized for what, but if Michael Wilkinson doesn't get recognized for Andor, Tony and I will lose our shit. We will show up at the Emmys and be like, what the fuck were you thinking? Have you seen these costumes? They're some of the best costumes I've seen in a TV show ever.
Yeah. And I think that's important to Star Wars, you know? Through every trilogy, we have seen key moments in fashion, you know? Return of the Jedi, we see Luke in the all black, but then at the end, the little bit of white that tears away, you know, or showing Rey wearing the X-Wing pilot helmet, you know, like there are just so many key moments that are so important, and that's what also makes Star Wars and helps tell the story, you know?
Yeah, like the fashion is so important in a way that I don't think people really understand, because, you know, hey, here's the thing, I don't have like a fashion degree. I just watch the thing and I'd be like, does this make sense for the settings, for the character, for the story? And Andor does that incredibly well.
I
Like,
agree.
and also as somebody who, does write, I can also look at it from a writing standpoint, being like, what do these things, these colors, the way that the outfit is arranged on this person tell me about the character when I go to analyze them? And,
Right.
it's insane maybe to stare at a picture of Mon Mothma for 45 minutes being like, okay, so this is what this outfit tells you about her in this moment with the way that
Right.
it's sitting on her and like arranged, right?
Right.
And I'm just so glad that we in Andor have been able to let Mon Mothma be a fashion icon. Because Leia got to be the fashion icon in the original trilogy. Padme was the fashion
Exactly.
icon in the prequels. And she is kind of like are between that. And I'm
Right.
like, let her slay. Because if you look at what she was wearing in the Revenge of the Sith deleted scenes, it actually looks really good. Like those clothes
Mhm.
are textured. Are they going to be a bitch to make when I ultimately make them? Yes.
Yeah.
And then like even like her out, it's animated, but her outfit in the Clone Wars, because she only had one. And then what we see her in Rebels, I'm like, okay, there's like a lot of varying different things that she wears, but let her slay. And then they give me Andor. And from the very first promo pic, I was like, we're winning. We're winning. She has a real wardrobe now of
Right.
multiple outfits.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think even like small spoilers for The Mask of Fear, to anyone who hasn't read it, but there's this moment, I forget exactly when, but she's in her typical white and she throws this red scarf on over.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think it's for an imperial
It was for the
banquet or
Conqueror
something.
Summit. It was for the Conqueror
Yes.
Summit. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. And it's kind of like, I this is me showing that I don't want to be here, that I am not going
Yeah.
to give in like these other people. So
Yeah.
yes, her
Because
fashion has
yeah.
been great so far
Yeah.
from
'Cause
what we've seen.
it's such a bold departure. Like the red scarf is such a bold departure from who she usually is. Um,
Exactly.
that it stands out and it's like she wants you to see it.
Right.
Right. And I think having essentially just lost Padme, who rest in peace, fashion icon, she knew the power of what your clothes can say and do for you.
Exactly.
And yeah, as she should. Just I just want her and Padme to go shopping at some point.
I would love like a short little story.
Yeah,
Any of the authors, please get on
yeah,
this right now.
please. Mon and Padme shopping together, complaining slightly. Like Padme's like, oh, Anakin's just, running into battles recklessly with his lightsaber. And Mon's like, yeah, my husband's gambling again. I don't know
Right.
what to do about that. And Padme's like, have you considered sending him to war? I don't know. And Mon's like, yeah, he wouldn't make it. They'd be like, sorry, sir, you cannot bring your flask with you. And he would drop dead. So
Literally. Literally.
it's like, I got to keep him around.
I guess.
Yeah. But, oh, just Michael Wilkinson, my hero. My kingdom for being able to interview him at some point, just to talk about all of the intricacies. And I
That
always
would
like love when I plan out conversations in my head and be like, this is how I think it would go. And there's just me like, going off. And he's like, I mean, I thought it
sure.
just looked good. That's all.
Right.
Oh, it had nothing to do with this 7 pages worth of analysis. That's cool. But I also love it when they're like, actually, yeah, you could look at it that way. And like, this is how things change within that, like within this new context. Um, again, talking to Beth Revis about The Princess and the Scoundrel following Andor season 2. My kingdom for that.
Oh my
Because
God.
she's like, last time I planned a wedding, it was my daughter's. Everyone's like, oh, that must have been nice. She's like, not really.
Not
It was
really.
an arranged marriage. Here's a picture of me at it. Oh, you look great. Thank you. I was dying inside.
Literally.
You have a story that's actually happy. No. Why do you ask?
No.
Yeah. Is there anything else like we want to get into with the fashions in Andor?
I don't think so. I think I covered the main things that I noticed in my rewatch. So,
Yeah, I think it was a very good like overall discussion.
right.
Because we hit the key geographical points.
Yeah.
Coruscant, Ferrix, Aldani, and Narkina 5. And
Yeah.
I hate to put Narkina 5 and fashion in the same sentence, but
Right.
the thing I thought was most interesting about those outfits was the boots that the guards had on. Because I was like, those
Yes.
designs feel really cool. They feel like skiing or snowboarding boots.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure it was confirmed that they were basically that.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, Narkina 5, the best skiing and snowboarding destination in the galaxy. Second
Totally.
only to Mustafar. So what are you most looking forward to in Andor season 2?
I'm excited. It's going to be a hard watch, but I'm excited to see the torture scene with Bix. Just because like she said it was the best like that performance that she ever gave. So it's going to be hard, but like I'm really excited for that. Of course, we're all excited about, Cassian meeting K2, and seeing the beginnings of the relationship. And I'm kind of just curious to see how they're gonna kind of get everybody into, that transition into Rogue One. Obviously we meet Melshi, like we kind of can already tell that they're gonna be friends and he's gonna want to join the cause with him. So it'll be interesting to see how everything gets put together. I would love to see some sort of mention or something of like Saw and Jin, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yes, please,
like some sort of Rebel Rising, like overarching moment.
Yeah,
but
I would be over here losing my mind, crying, screaming.
I don't think
my
I could.
Roommate thinks that I was like being murdered. That's fine, Who is your favorite original Andor character?
I think my favorite original Andor character, I think it has to be Mon. I honestly,
but she doesn't technically count as an original.
Okay.
Right. I'm so sorry. I would say the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. I would say Bix. I would say Bix is such an interesting character. So, yeah.
I love her as well. Yeah. And who is your least favorite? Original again. Yeah. Original. So like Saw, Mon, Yularen, Cassian, they don't really count.
I think
somebody's just like, my least favorite character is Cassian, and I'm like, then why are you watching this show?
Literally. I think my least favorite has to be Dedra.
Oh, okay. That's the first time we've had Dedra listed.
Her character is so complex. It just the way she talks and presents herself, it just like it's oh man. I
Is
don't
it
know how to
more of like a
explain.
love to hate thing with her?
Yes, like I
That's
love to know the story and like see how she accomplishes her goals, but like I hate it at the same time. And like I think also I think this was probably the actress's choice too. The way that she speaks, like
yeah,
how she moves her mouth
yeah,
in that character, I don't know, something just seems so off-putting about it. Seems very tight, rigid, you know? So when we go from a scene with Cassian or Vel or Mon, and then it goes
yeah.
into her, it's like, ugh. But I'm not upset to see her in season 2. So
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Typically the top two answers that we get for that one are Perrin and Tim, which is so real. But
so real.
at the same time, some folks have acknowledged that like that is very low hanging fruit because we spent this entire time hating on these two men
Right?
between
I've
hyping up somebody else.
I can only be a man-hating lesbian for so long. So, I like, they're just right there, you know? Yeah,
Velcor for real. Velcor for
literally.
real. Vel has been a Perrin hater for so long.
And it's so obvious with the way she talks to him.
Like, yes, all the good ones are taken. And I'm
Literally.
like sometimes I talk about I'm like, I feel like she has a little bit of beef with Mon, but I feel like that comes from a place of like not understanding. Whereas like with Perrin, she knows him. She understands all that she needs to, and she hates his guts. Right.
Right?
But I'm like, I
And
can
it
kind of see with Mon because it's just like I've been out there in the front lines and you're still here with
exactly,
access
that's what I was gonna
to
say.
all of these things that I'm used to having, right? And it's like, so it kind of like makes a little bit of sense, you know, because like the rebellion changes you. And that's kind of like
Yeah.
something that we're going to get more into in season 2, I hope. But,
Yeah.
you know, and the different things that people have to do. And I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I mean, like, you know, I don't like you because you just don't understand what she's going through. I could be like, I dislike the way that you are going about this because you lack this understanding. And
Right.
sometimes I don't feel like you're trying to understand or listen. But at the
Right.
same time, Belle's got her own shit to worry about. Where
Right.
she's just like, I mean, if you get caught, we all go down, right?
Right.
She understands and she's like, you do know how dangerous all of this is. And Mon's like, yeah, of course I know how dangerous this is. that wall is listening to me right now. But you know, no true bad blood between me and Val. I'm just like, sometimes I listen to your cousin more than you do.
Yeah.
But then again, I just exist to stand Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma stand first, human second.
Exactly.
What is your favorite thing about Mon?
I think I keep talking about the Mask of Fear, but it's what I'm reading,
So
so it's
so
literally
real.
just I love seeing her relationship with Bale. I feel like before this book, you know, we kind of just we saw them as colleagues, you know,
Yeah,
but we just like all assumed because they were fighting the same fight that they liked each other and they agreed on everything.
yeah. That
And
there
so
was like
like seeing
no division at all. You
exactly.
know?
So I have loved seeing how their relationship it actually is
Mm-hmm.
and Bale going literally crazy about the Jedi because he does know the truth. But
Yeah,
but yeah, and I just love her. I love her solidarity.
yeah,
Um, Again, in that book, we learn a lot about her, her arrest, and just how she genuinely feels about a lot of things,
Yeah.
and how she stands up to that. So that would
Yeah.
Solid A is my probably favorite
Yeah.
um, personality
I
trait of hers.
I love how the Mask of Fear was literally like, yeah, of course Padme's death is going to have an effect on the two senators that she was closest with. You
Right,
know, like it makes sense. And given that like Bale and Mon know very different things, and Mon doesn't know the truth, and Bale can't tell her the
right,
truth because that puts
right,
her in danger and puts his
exactly.
family in even more danger. There's like at one point I was just like, man, you seem to be holding her accountable for things that she doesn't know because you can't tell her. Right.
Right,
And I think by the end of the book, they realized they were like, shit, like, why are we doing that? We are on the same side. We don't need to blindly agree with one another, but we work really well together.
right,
And we should focus more on that because, arguing and dividing isn't going to bring Padme back. And she would I think she would be much happier with the two
yeah,
of them working together.
right,
But it does like logically and emotionally make sense that when you have someone that was able to like bridge the gap between two people and you lose that person, it's like, well, of course it's going to hurt. And looking at that other person is going to remind you of them. And so
right.
you're going to feel that like pull against each other. But I don't know how far you are into it.
I'm about halfway.
Okay, so you haven't even like reached my favorite Mon and Bale scene yet, but it takes place in like late part 3, I think.
Yeah, I just started part 2.
Yeah, part 2. Oh
So,
my god. Have you
um,
read chapter 17 yet?
yes, the one character.
I'm not sure. The chapter 7. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, wait. Oh, right. Yeah. Painful.
yeah,
Um Mon deserves a rest from
yeah,
pain.
yeah. He does.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for joining me, Beth. It really means a lot. Uh, yeah. Where can people find you if you want to be found?
Um, my my Twitter username is Cozy Cathley, Cathley 7. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, like Patty Cathley,
Yes, yes.
baby girl.
Baby girl.
We
So,
love her.
you guys can check out my rants of any character that I will go on a tangent about. Mainly Han Solo, Valance, Rey Skywalker, and whatever I'm currently reading.
That's fair. That's fair. Everyone knows I can rant about the Mask of Fear. There is a 10-page review on Substack about it. And I was like, oh, and I cut myself off as well. There was another page of things I could have gotten into, but I stopped myself. And Substack is like, yeah, this is going to take people 30 minutes to read. And I was like, delightful.
Love that.
Love that. Yeah. Me, as always, I can be found at Bejeweled Mothma if you want just general Ash nonsense or Mothma updates if you want specifically Mon Mothma updates and things about Mon Mothma, which do always end up on my personal page as well, but whatever. That's inconsequential. My life is dedicated to her. If you're at Star Wars Celebration in Japan, it is literally 1 month away from my panel. It's Friday the 18th from 4 to 5 on the fan stage. We're talking about drum roll. You don't need a drum roll. It's Mon Mothma. Obviously, it's Mon Mothma. Who else could it be? And I hope to see you there. If you cannot make it to Japan or to my panel, which I mean, if you're in Japan and at the convention and you don't come to my panel, I'll be sad. But it will be recorded and posted on YouTube for everyone to watch. Thank you one last time, Beth, before I thank you in all the captions for this video, because I do that. I say thank you a lot. And thank you to everyone watching at home, at work, when you should be working, on a train. Don't operate motor vehicles or heavy machinery while watching my videos. I don't need to be named in any lawsuits. I don't need you hurting people or getting hurt yourself. So think about it like that before you go crazy. Thank you, and may the force be with you, everyone.
May the force be with you.